Greetings, YouTube. I am not a fan of cisgender Musk. And if you're asking why am I calling him that, because he hates the word cisgender. So I will call him nothing but cisgender Musk for the rest of his miserable goddamn life. Um, and he isn't an inventor. He was raised in a family that made their fortune literally on the backs of slaves in an emerald mine in South Africa. Slave labor made he and his family incredibly wealthy. So he was born with an emerald spoon in his mouth. He would literally walk around as a teenager with emeralds in his pocket just to show off. So he was like the worst kind of douche bro you could imagine. And then, with a lot of money, he just bought himself fame. He would buy companies and insist that they write down that he was like one of the founding creators of the company, when in reality, he just walked in and bought it. It's the equivalent of him walking into a store, buying a pre-made meal, going and handing it to you and telling you he made it. He didn't. Okay? In addition, he's a bigot. He's a transphobe. He's a white nationalist. He's just a horrible human being. And he's known for pushing his people and hurrying things because he wants to be well known. He also has a really fragile ego. I mean, his ego is so fragile, he went out and spent $44 billion to buy a company he has since driven into the ground. Just because people on that company said unpleasant things about him. Yes, cisgender Musk is made from spun glass. Okay? The barest hint and he shatters. And one of the things I discovered recently is his Cybertruck, which is a horrible design. If you look at it, it does not look ergonomic in the least. It does not seem particularly useful in any way, shape, or form. It is got weird body shapes. There isn't anything good about it. I can tell you right now, if I'd seen that even as a kid in the 70s, I would have said that's an awkward design. And I love science fiction stuff. Okay? And I've got fond memories of vehicles, particularly, concept cars and things like that, that weren't particularly practical, that I loved. But that Cybertruck wouldn't have made the cut. But one of the things I discovered is the wire harness. Now this is going a little deep. Most people don't care about wire harnesses. But I have worked in the past with wire harnesses for antennas. And wire harnesses for antennas aren't super complex. They're not simple, but they just tend to be bulky, because especially when you got an antenna with like a 48-foot boom, that's a lot of harness. Even if there aren't a lot of wires, it's still a lot of harness, okay? And you got to make sure everything's incredibly robust when you have a harness that is literally exposed to the elements. Okay? Now the harness in your car, the wire harness, doesn't have to be that robust because everything is contained inside your vehicle. And if it's done properly, it's properly shielded, it's properly protected from sharp edges. And so the harness itself should not be suffering from a lot of wear and tear so long as people don't muck with it or the components around it. But if something goes bad, getting to that harness and replacing part of it or all of it is a nightmare because it is intricately connected to every single electrical component in your entire vehicle. It is a spaghetti monster in a very literal sense. You don't want to have to pay to have a wire harness replaced, and if it ever goes bad, pray that it's a manufacturing problem and you can get it done as a recall for nothing, because you don't want to pay for that. Well, Elon Musk's design is not his, but cisgender Musk's engineers, they wanted a simpler design. Now, I don't know if this was driven from the top because cisgender Musk wanted a simpler design, or someone convinced him that a simpler design was the way to go. People who are near a person of power will often suck up to them to get favoritism and get preferential treatment. Not the first time that's happened. When someone is very eager to hear certain things, it's very easy to sell them those ideas. So if he was sold the idea that a simpler harness design would save money and be more elegant and simpler, awesome. The problem is that they built a wire harness for this vehicle that's in series. So instead of there being a wire going to every single component, there is one wire that all of the components are coming off of, like the old school lights, like those behind me. Where's my hand? There we go. Like behind me, okay, old school Christmas lights were made in series. And if you turned one bulb off, they all went out. Modern lights are designed so that if one bulb burns, all the rest still function. And that is how a modern wire harness works in your vehicle. If one thing burns out in your vehicle, everything else will still function. Well, they've built a 48-volt wire harness for the Cybertruck that is one thing in series. So if one thing goes wrong in your wire harness, everything goes wrong in your wire harness. Now I want you to imagine for a moment you're driving down the road in an electric vehicle and something blows. It happens. Fuses sometimes just burn out. Sometimes components just give up. Yes, I'm using LED lights here, but they're not infinite. Eventually, probably within my lifetime, these bulbs will have to be replaced. Maybe only once, but they're still going to blow. That happens in the real world. I just had to replace an expensive component on a furnace when we thought it was just a simple circuit, a fuse, and discovered it was something more complex. And the fuse was actually very difficult to acquire. Yay for strange fuses. But if you blow something while you're going down the road in a vehicle that is done in series, suddenly all of the electrical components in your vehicle stop working. Everything in a Cybertruck is electric. That's bad. I don't know how much I can emphasize how bad that is. I'm not an electrical engineer, okay? I'm not even an electrician, but I know enough to not design a wire harness for a vehicle that's in series. I know enough that a modern set of lights is better than an old set of Christmas lights because they all don't burn out if one bulb goes. That light right there, I think, is done in series. So if I lose one light, I think I lose them all, but I'm not positive. I have to check it out and see if any have burned out over time. Maybe they have. But that's not going to... That right there, my life's not dependent on that. If that thing stops blinking, I just go buy another one. If my entire car stops working when I'm doing 65 miles an hour down the road, I am very likely going to die, and I could potentially kill the people behind me because my vehicle suddenly stops functioning. How do I steer a vehicle that no longer has a functioning steering system? That I can no longer control the speed. I can no longer control anything. Maybe the brakes will still function. I'm not sure. Are they hydraulically controlled in that? Is that required by law? Or are they electrical? There's different ways of building brakes in a vehicle that is electrically driven than is one that is run by a internal combustion engine. And while power steering does have an electrical component, you can still operate a set of brakes with difficulty. If the electrical system were to, that powered feature were to stop, you can still do it. You're just going to have to pull out everything you've got and be the Hulk for that for a few minutes. Yeah, running a power steering, running a power brake vehicle without power, not going to be fun. But it's possible. What about the Cybertruck? Is it? I don't know. I can tell you I don't want to find out. But just think about it. It could be something simple. I've got a tire pressure gauge in my car that doesn't work right. It registers that there is a tire pressure problem, but it doesn't tell me the right tire. Okay, it's real easy for me to check all 4 tires to see which one is right. It actually gets the rear front thing, so I just have 2 tires to check. Big deal. The car's not moving. I am in no danger. What happens if the Cybertruck blows that? It's done in series. The entire system could give out. That's dangerous. There's a lot of things about the Cybertruck which are dangerous. The windows apparently don't break. I don't want to be in that vehicle. I've been in car accidents where they had to bend a door out of the way and pull me out, you know, on a stretcher because with a neck brace. I don't want to have to be in a Cybertruck when is that even possible? The design is so horrible in that vehicle. It's mind numbing. I can't believe it ever saw the light of day. Uh, yeah, it's ugly and it's not functional as a truck. You know, give me an F-150 any day over something like this. Even the smaller scale Dodges would be superior in every way, shape, and form than this thing. And there are conversion kits for trucks that can be hybrid or electric. That you'd be better off one of those than buying yourself a Cybertruck that has a wire harness that could quite literally put your life at risk if you blew anything in it.